bottle of water, and the next thing you know, it turns into a giant monster, and then we got to go fight it, and then, you know, so it was very predictable.
Right.
And so I thought, this is so easy. These writers have it easy. I'm going to go upstairs and see if I can write one. So I asked. I went upstairs and I asked one of the writers, I said, hey, can I try writing an episode? And I hadn't written anything, ever. Creative writing, but not like a script. And but I'd seen enough scripts at that point, so I was like, all right, I felt pretty confident. And so I go up there and he said, oh yeah, sure, here. And then he pulls out this big box of tapes, basically, of the Japanese footage of the show. And this was during Zio. And so he was like, yeah, just pop one in, but the goal is to be able to use as much footage as possible from that. And then, you know, create scenes around it, and just, you have to mark down the times of what you want to pull into the episodes and whatnot. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I start watching one episode. And as I'm watching it, it's this faucet monster, right? It's like, whatever, the Rangers run into this warehouse, and the faucet monster turns his thing on, and it's like, starts spraying the Rangers, and the Rangers like, water! And then anyways, it keeps cutting back to the monster, like spraying them. He's like, spraying them from his faucet head. And they're like, and it cuts to the Rangers, and the water turns to like this yellowish, brownish color. And it cuts back, and the monster has unzipped his pants and has another faucet and is peeing on the Rangers. And I was like, what? It's like, what show? What is Japan doing?
Guys, there was some dark stuff. I mean,
there were some dark
things. They got crucified. Remember that one? Literally, they crucified in Ranger.
Yeah, the Green Ranger, didn't he like commit seppuku?
He killed his parents.
Yeah, he killed his parents because they were monsters.
I mean,
Can you imagine that show?
Yeah.
So anyways, obviously I couldn't use that footage. I'm like trying to like figure out, it just got too weird. I couldn't stop thinking about that. Like, well, what did you cut that out? And then where do you go from there? And then it just got too complicated. And I'm like, you know what? If I write this, kids are gonna be peeing on each other. I can see it now. Written by,
And that's not for kids. That's between consenting adults.
And then the Puritans.
Hey man,
That was a whole nother channel.
That's Phantom with Victor.
That was the one Victor was in. Oh yeah, I have to urinate.
You didn't hear any of this, okay? Child is going to be traumatized.
I told you that was a good story. So, as Johnny said earlier, if you guys have any questions, we want you to raise your hand as soon as possible, because these are only 45-minute panels, and we don't want you to miss out on getting your question answered. All the way in the back, make sure you speak really loud. What's your question?
Bleach is, as far as I know, yes, October. As far as I know, the Japanese side is going to be coming out. We have not heard anything yet. They haven't contacted us, so we're just kind of waiting for them. I have no idea what's going on yet, so I'm sure we all want to come back. We're just waiting for that call.
I just have to tell you, I love Scooby-Doo. That's awesome. That's my thing.
That's Ashley. She's real mean. Don't talk to her.
She's in her disapproving look right now.
That's her always look.
She always disapproves.
I know, of me.
Well, I mean, think
I'm
about
gonna come meet her at my table.
All right, we got a question back here in the back. What you got?
Favorite part? Well, first off, being he was the antagonist. He's like I call it like the Breaking Bad of anime. You're kind of following this guy who's kind of turning bad, sort of, and for sure. But you want to see what's going to happen. And I really loved it. And I felt like at the end of the season, when it was all done, the end of season 2, I was like, it all made sense. It wrapped up really nicely. It was kind of sad, but yeah, I loved it. Yeah, I had a great time on it. There might be more as well, too. So
we got one woo.
All right, over here, what you got?
A bit of a sci-fi question for Johnny. Kind of like a silly what-if thing. I was wondering if you guys had ever thought, like, regarding fascist history, if you were to get into a one-on-one shootout with, say, like Seth from Republic Commando, or maybe Spice Eagle, who would win in that shootout?
Oh, I think Vash would. Vash is a lot better than you've seen it. So Vash is a lot better than he makes himself out to be. You can just see that in the stuff. You're like, oh, that was an accident. No, that was on purpose. But he plays the fool. you know. And he does make mistakes here and there too, but he's, I don't know. I think Vash would win for sure. I don't think there's any situation other, you know, and he's got his other thing too, you know. If he ever wanted to get his tri-gun out, you know, like there's a lot there. I totally think Vash would win. I'd love to see him in a game. Actually, they should bring him in for like something.
So
I miss
Jason,
Vash.
Jason, you've been on. You spent quite a bit of time on the show. Outside of the two guys that are on this panel with you, who are some of your favorite people on the show and why?
Well, obviously there's Paul Schreier, as I refer to him as my first ex-wife. Only because his blood type is exactly the same as mine, so if I ever have a catastrophic accident, I can get blood from him. That works out really well. I encourage everyone to find someone who's got the same blood type as you. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, we got a lot of close friends throughout. Kat Sutherland and I were very close for many years. We did Hamlet together with Paul Schreier. Yeah, right? Paulie played Hamlet. Yeah, take that. Ah! And then all of us died. Ah, ha, ha. And then, oh, sorry. Spoiler! Oh, damn it. Now no one's gonna go see it. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, we were all very close, but yeah, Kat and obviously Johnny, Austin, the entire first cast, because we went through hell together, you know, that first year. I think, though, Johnny, Paulie, and Kat are the people I've spent the most time with. And Jason Frank, probably.
Sorry.
You know. So there you go.
All right, what's your question?
Okay, hey Johnny, if you were on, if Vash Stampede was on Mortal Kombat, what would be his finisher?
What would be his finisher?
Yeah.
I think his tri-gun thing would come out, and then the whole thing it'd be like a nuke.
Maybe he cries at the end because
Yeah, well, I don't think he'd be ripping out any spines.
All right, we're gonna go over here first.
Question for Austin. When you were on Beast Morpher, did you actually have to Master Morpher? Or was that the original?
Jason is the master morpher.
Yeah!
All right, back here in the blue sweatshirt.
Question for all you guys. Kind of hinted earlier, it's like been somewhat in like this fraternity for years now, and spending so much time with each other for so many years. Of course, you're probably bicker, you're probably joke around, all that stuff. So, what would you say is your favorite prank that you've either pulled or had a prank put on you between you guys?
Didn't he already talk about hazing? Or we're not supposed to talk about hazing? No, that's a good question.
Well, okay, so we had, this is an easy, quick one because we talk about this all the time. When Kat Sutherland came, she was a newbie, right? So we had a series of events where we would pull pranks on Kat. For instance, one time she went to her dressing room and all of her furniture was gone. And then when she went back to her dressing room, we took all the furniture from all the other dressing rooms and put it into her dressing room so she couldn't get into her dressing room. So there was that one. Yeah.
Pretty good one.
That was a good one. That was a good one. So I think we did that to Steve Cardenas. Steve Cardenas got a lot of ribbing too, actually.
Yeah.
You know.
Jason Frank did a lot of pranks.
Yeah. Believe it or not, Frank was probably the biggest prankster, I think.
For sure.
You know.
That was went a little too far, though.
Yeah.
He fed David Yost, and Dave tells a story. He fed David Yost a fly and a sandwich.
Yeah.
There's a cemetery behind the old studio where we buried the victims of the pranks. Oh, so is this thing on? Oh, damn it. I was just trying to remind you guys to put flowers next week.
It's unmarked, though. Nobody's supposed to know.
I remember we did this one thing to Steve Cardenas. This was kind of funny. So Christmas Eve, we were filming in Australia, and these guys hadn't done a lot of press interviews yet. And so we took Steve with us. Someone asked us at the last minute, do you know this one? They asked us at the last minute to do a press interview on a Sydney radio station. And they asked Paulie and me, and we said, hey Steve, why don't you come along? It'll be a good time. Steve's like, I've never done a press interview. Okay. So they asked us questions like, what's it like on the set? And before Steve could open his mouth, Paulie and I would jump in. Oh, well, we had a great time, and blah, 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 blah. And then, they asked easy questions, So you've been on Power Rangers for how long? Paulie and I would jump in. Boom! And the moment we had a really hard question, which is, so a lot of people are talking about the violence that this show has brought up amongst our youth. And so Paulie and I go, Steve.
How did he get himself out of that?
I'd love to know what his answer was.
I'm telling you, like 2 million Sydney siders heard dead air for about 30 seconds.
That's great. So it looks like we got a question here in the front row, and then we're going to go directly to the gentleman right behind her next. So what's your question right here in the front row?
It wants to know what your favorite bleach scene is, and she believes you're going to get tall, so.
My favorite
Are you
bleach
excited?
scene? Oh man, that's hard. There's a lot of moments that I really liked. There was a moment earlier on, I can't remember, when he was walking through the woods and thinking about his mom. That was a moment I really liked. There's a lot of interaction with Orihime and and her bad cooking. That's fun. Rukia's bad drawing stuff. Rukia, why do your drawing suck so bad? That stuff was always fun. But then of course, like the first time he fought Byakuya, Kenpachi, the first time the Hollow Ichigo came out, that was a lot of fun. So there's a lot, just kind of all throughout. There's like moments that I really like. And later on with Grimjaw and stuff like that, like the animation was more improved, so. And then of course, if you guys have seen the latest teaser trailer, the new stuff, it looks even better. So yeah, I'm fully excited. I like it.
All right, so right behind, what's your question here in the blue shirt?
Grimjaw.
This is a question for all three. What would you say was, whether it was intentionally planned out or just turned out to be dangerous, what would you say is like the most dangerous stunt you guys had to do on the show?
Now you're making me think.
Had to do or chose to do?
I mean,
Because usually they were trying to dial us back. I'm pretty sure they tried to dial all of us
Except
back.
Jonathan, there was one time in the second movie, which you were in, but there was. It was like when your characters were like fighting piranhatrons or something in the water, and we had to jump off of this cliff, and so they sent me and Jason Frank up there. Steve refused to do it, and the girls, of course, they didn't. And then we looked up, and it looked pretty high, but we were like, maybe it'd be all right, And so we got up there, and then when we looked down, we were like, ooh, this is like 20 plus feet, and they didn't want to put the mats down for us. It was just like land on the beach, right? And it was like the hard part of the beach. It wasn't like soft.
shoot.
Yeah, remember? So it's like, and we were looking down, and then I was like, dude, this is pretty high, man. And then Jason was like, yeah, I don't know. And then we were like, hey, so we can't do mats or anything? You just want us to land down there? And Jonathan was like, come on, you're emotional. Just do it. Stop being scared or whatever. We're like, okay, fine. Yeah, we'll do it. I'm not scared. Whatever. And so, yeah, so we did that. That was probably the one, because I was like, well, if I'm going to hit, I'm just going to roll right into it.
Right.
And then Jason, I think he said he was going to try to land it, but he couldn't quite, and I think he had to roll out of it too, but he messed up his knee.
I was going to say,
yeah.
talk about rolling an ankle.
Yeah, you got much worse than that, but that was forced. That was a forced situation.
Well, I remember, Tui, when we did that Universal Studios thing, they were doing pyrotechnics, and these guys all would like do a flip off the platform, and as they flip, they set up pyrotechnics. And so Tui threw her off, and she rolled her ankle, and she was limping for like 3 months or something like that. She was in crutches, so it's kind of ridiculous that they didn't think, if you roll an ankle, it's going to screw up filming for
Ever.
Did you get forever?
So at Universal, there was everybody else, they got to the stage before me for whatever reason, and they had already choreographed their stuff, and they had it all laid out, so I kind of had the benefit of coming last, and at first I was like, oh man, I'm last. I was like the angry kid in the schoolyard, boy, I gotta go last, man. Well, I'm glad to make them last. I just hold on to it, everybody's already ready. And then I saw everybody doing their thing, and I went, oh. And then I saw this platform that went up into the darkness. You remember that huge towering platform?
Yeah.
And it went up past the lights where the Raptor things were. And it was 25 feet maybe?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. And I looked at it and I went, I want to do a back layout off the top of that, onto the stage, and then launch into my car. And I remember them looking at me, they were like, Steve, there's no take two. There's no take two, Steve. This is a bad idea. He's like, I'm gonna go do that. So then I went up there and I had that moment where I was like, that looks really far down there. And then I was dumb enough. I was like, no, I'll do it. And so then the pyro guys came up once they saw what I was doing, and they were like, oh, and he's the last one introduced. We'll set pyrotechnics up there. But they didn't tell me. So I had two issues. I went up to the top, and I'm wearing the darkest sunglasses you've ever seen in our helmets. I can't really see because I'm above the lights.
All right.
So I went up there, my vision is limited, and I told the guys, I was like, my cue, you're gonna see me, I'll wave, and then I'll turn around, and once you see the balls of my feet hit the edge and my heels hanging off, when you see my arms drop, know that when they're gonna come right back up and I'm gonna go. And I said, that's when you know when the lights are supposed to shift, and all the light guys do light stuff. And so I did a couple rehearsals, no problem. Stuck it. Well, what I wasn't counting on was all the adrenaline that was going to hit me because we never done a live show. So thousands of people are out there, and this is like back in the day.
It's one of the biggest music venues in Los Angeles.
Yeah, Madonna and like Aerosmith, the big boys.
Yeah, it was huge. We went from what was like 150 seats, and then they said we sold too many tickets. We need to go to a slightly bigger arena, and then they went to a 20,000 seat arena. I don't know.
And we filled it up like 5 times.
5 times. We shut down the LA freeways.
I get up there and I'm already blinded. I'm in the dark part above the lights on the stage. I can't see. And then in the old days they had real cameras with flashes.
All right.
And so it was like Star Trek. All I could see was these brilliant white flashes all across my vision. So now I've got all the spots in my vision. And I'm turning around, I'm like, I'm about to fall off the top of this damn thing. And they're chanting your name. They did it for each of us. It was Jason, Jason. And I turn around and I lay out, and I still don't know about the pyrotechnics. So no sooner do I lay out than boom, huge fire. And I can feel the heat through my super teeny tiny thin spandex. And it scared the pee out of me. So I over-rotated. And I hit, and I landed on my feet, but I rolled out of it and popped up and went straight into my kata. And I was terrified. After that, I expected fireworks, and then the next few I stuck. But that was both dumb and amazing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You were up in the rafters where they couldn't see you, though, right?
So when I came in, there was a single spotlight.
Oh, they hit
me
you.
with.
Yeah.
And then I was
gonna say, why would you do a back layout? They can't even see you do
and it didn't help me because it was right there in my face. It was no fun.
All right, over here, we got 2 questions over here in the corner. Go to the guy closer to me first.
Legend of the White Dragon. Well, I worked on the original pitch for that, the teaser, which had a slightly different script that I worked on with Aaron, who's Batman's son. But we didn't raise the funds the first time, and then COVID hit, and then, a lot of things happened. I was supposed to shoot another film that ended up turning into this film here. We'll probably talk about that a bit more tonight. And then they wanted to restart the Kickstarter again, like during COVID. Like I think it was in February or March or somewhere right there. And I wasn't totally comfortable with it. I was also in the middle of this, and I just wasn't comfortable with raising money at that point when everybody was really kind of needing money. And so I am not going to be in it. And the script and story has changed from what I was working on, and so it's a bit different now. It's weird for me to have to say that because they didn't really announce that I'm not in it. And so it's frustrating that I have to tell people that I'm not in it. But that's, unfortunately, that's what the situation is. But that is why I did this film, because I wanted to give something, because The Order is another one. Somebody had The Order shirt on here. That was another project that was like a Indiegogo, and then that was a Kickstarter thing. So there's been things that I was supposed to do, but either they fell through or whatnot. They just didn't happen. And so I wanted to be able to do something that I would just put my own money into and just give it to you for free. You don't have to pay for it. And so that's why I have this. So unfortunately, I am not in it. But it should be done. I think they're coming out with that pretty soon.
Looking good.
All right, so right over here behind him.
We're doing Legend of the Black Dragon.
Yes.
White, black.
They haven't reached out to any of us, as far as I know. I am certain that if they did, we'd be down to do it, you know, and I think that would be interesting, you know. I think they could come off of the other movie, you know, that we did, and it'd be fun to go in and even just play older versions of ourselves, you know. There was talk of that a long time ago when Hasbro originally was talking about doing like an older Ranger thing, I think called Legends or something.
Well, and Hasbro looked at a couple different ones. They were also playing around with the shattered grid as well.
Right.
So,
yeah.
so Hasbro is they're like a cat, and Power Rangers is a mouse. They're toying with it, and eventually we're just going to end up dead.
Try to reach out to us.
That's right.
Like,
Hey, John, you need to call you.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
It's pretty fresh, so nobody's really.
they recently announced that, right? Wasn't it?
It's super recent. So like the usual chatter that we'll hear just around the periphery hasn't even really started yet. You know, because we usually hear chatter. Somebody heard this thing, and this one guy talked to this other person. We'll at least hear that. We've heard nothing yet, so I don't think there's even enough chatter yet to
I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't get us. Oh, I'm sure we'd all be down to do it. Yeah.
As long as there's no backflips off 25 foot.
That's all. I think that
show
would
that we
be
do that.
Yeah, we're good with that.
Yeah, that works.
All right, we got time for one more question over here.
Poor guy's been holding us apart. I was like,
And that's our time. Thank you guys.
Oh, what was your favorite show to do when you were doing your acting careers?
Favorite show in general?
Yeah.
Are you saying our careers are over?
Yeah.
I'm just checking.
I mean,
We're
Now that your
doing it.
careers are over.
I know.
Man, it's kind of harsh. I need a therapist. How about you guys?
Oh man, I don't know. I just like working.
Yeah.
It says working.
Whatever show you're working on at that moment that is currently paying you is the best. It's not all about money, obviously. It's that you want whatever project is in front of you is the most important thing in your life.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes,
simple
you
as
spend
that.
so much time on your characters to try to develop it, or whatever aspect you're involved in it. You know, you put so much time into it.
Yeah. And if you don't find something in that that's fascinating and interesting and that nourishes the soul, you're in the wrong industry.
And acting is great for people with ADD like me, because every time I get bored, there's something new.
That's right.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, that runs rampant in the acting industry, doesn't it?
Totally,
Yeah, hey, how are you? What were you saying? Where are we going? What's your name? Wow, that's so cool.
That's why they got a bunch of people on a film set. Not because actors are special, but because we're idiots and we need a bunch of people with cattle prods saying, pay attention, go over there, get that thing on, put on the other costume. That's how it works.
So you guys basically being like forefathers of the Power Rangers. Do you have any?
There's only three of us.
Yes.
There's only three of us. We talk about the
I
paternity.
was counting
we can't talk
1, 2,
about
3.
it.
Do you guys ever have any of the newer cast members, even if it's at a show at a Comic-Con or whatever, reach out to you guys to get some insight on the thought processes of how to be a Power Ranger?
Decree from the 2017 movie reached out to me on Twitter, and real nice. I mean, it wasn't extensive, it wasn't a long talk, but he asked me a couple questions. I gave him my thoughts, and then he did his job, and I think a lot of people were pleased with it.
Yeah. I mean, and it's weird, you know. So I remember the first Power Morphin Con, which is when most of us started doing Comic-Cons. I remember meeting the cast from whatever the current season of Rangers was, but they were filming that in New Zealand. In America, and New Zealand is a year behind. So in America, they had been on TV and people knew them and wanted their autographs. But when they left their hotel rooms, they were literally nobodies. So they got off the plane and they go to LA and they come off the plane and suddenly people are asking for their autographs. That was really weird to talk to them and be like, so here's what's gonna happen, guys. You know, that was kind of fun. That was kind of fun. But now, God, they're so young, they could be our grandchildren, couldn't they?
Yeah. So when I went back to do Forever Red, I walked up. There's 10 Red Rangers, and the youngest guy, Carlos, I think. He's super cool guy. We were coming up and we're doing the scene. He's like, "Man, I grew up watching you." I was like, "Shut up." I don't like you anymore. Yes, he is.